Hello, I'm Joachim Hedén. I'm the director of Breaking Surface, and you are listening to the Art or Trash podcast.
I spit on your grave. Groovy.
You just take care of the justice, and I'll handle the revenge myself.
Who will win, the living or the living dead?
I had a mad impulse to throw you down on the lunar surface and commit interstellar perversion.
Her deadliest weapon is her body.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Art or Trash Cinema podcast, Current Cinematic Conundrums. I am your host Flo, and this is a quick, short interview with Joachim Hedén. Having seen the entirety of the NIFFF2020 online selection, we have concluded that one of our favorites definitely was Breaking Surface, which is directed by Joachim Hedén. Obviously, we had to take the opportunity and talk to this director. For those of you who have not heard our review of this film, please go and check it out. It is available as part of our first NIFFF2020 episode, which is available basically everywhere you can get podcasts. So, without further ado, this is our interview with Joachim Hedén just after this short intermission.
Soy Miguel Jansó y welcome to Art or Trash.
Hier ist Heiko Roos, Regisseur vom Projekt Fleisch, der Militas und Projekt Theresa. Und ihr hört den Art or Trash Cinema Podcast.
안녕하세요. 영화 악인전, The Gangster, The Cop, and The Devil, 감독 이원태입니다. You are listening to the Art Trash Cinema Podcast.
アート・オブ・トラッシュシネマポッドキャストを聞いている皆さん、綾野隆之介です。ジャパニーズディレクターです。お酒の映画も大好きです。
Thank you very much. Perfect.
He said that I like alcohol and.
This is the Art or Trash Cinema podcast. We are here with Joachim Hedén, director of Breaking Surface. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Of course. Watching the NIFF online selection, we came across your film and immediately felt the need to include it in our pre-launch recommendations. So thank you for providing this outstanding film for the selection.
Thank you. Yeah, I listened to your podcast and thank you very much. Seemed like you liked the film. Makes me very happy.
We definitely did, yeah. So we were wondering, where do you see your main cinematic influences?
I don't necessarily have specific influences. I'm a little bit of I came quite late to filmmaking. I was on a completely different track in life, I guess. And I only got into the film production just before I turned 30. Mm-hmm. I think I as a child, I was one of those kids that did have a Super 8 camera, and I tried to do some stuff, but for whatever reason, that never carried through to my young adult life, and I was on a completely different track in life. But then, as I was approaching 30, I sort of had a little bit of a crisis, let's say, and was wondering if I was on the right track or not. I had studied economics, and I was sort of going towards some sort of career in business management or whatever, and I just felt that no, this is headed the wrong way. And so I got into filmmaking. I think I was 29 when I got my first job in the film industry, and I made my first movie at I don't know, I must have been 36 or 37 when I made my first feature film. So, and this is a long way of answering your question, because I came to filmmaking quite late in life. Sounds a little pretentious, but I think I came to filmmaking a little bit more of a finished person, maybe. I think maybe if you start out as a filmmaker when you're younger, possibly you can say that you have more direct influences from this or that or the other, or this filmmaker or these type of films. But since I came to it relatively late in life, I think somehow that maybe my filmmaking came out of my own experiences, my own life. I don't know if really that answers your question. Yeah. But I can also answer it a different way, because I'm Swedish. Sometimes I get the question, has Bergman been a big influence? And no, it's the truth is no, Bergman hasn't been a big one. James Cameron has probably been much bigger influence in that case than Bergman, but I understand the question.
All right. No, but despite that, you mentioned being Swedish. We would very much like if you could recommend 3 Swedish films that you like very much to your audience.
Oh, yes, absolutely. One Swedish film I liked very, very much from the last few years is called Dröm vidare.
English title Beyond Dreams.
It's a story of a young woman finding her way through life. Yeah, you can probably look up the plot synopsis online, but Dröm vidare. And then another 2 Swedish movies. I would really like to recommend, and we were involved as producers. I didn't write it or direct it, so I can make one recommendation from our own slate. It's by a director called Dražen Kuljanin. It's the Swedish film is called How to Stop a Wedding. And it was recently released as a Turkish remake. So we there was a Turkish remake that launched on Netflix. So I think this is available on Netflix everywhere. So the Turkish remake is called One Way to Tomorrow. So it's a straight remake of the Swedish film How to Stop a Wedding. So it would be, I really love that movie, the Swedish movie, and I think the remake is quite good also. So it's a little bit of a strange recommendation perhaps. And then a third film, I think... I'll make one recommendation, since I know that you like the actresses in Breaking Surface.
We did, yeah.
Another film with Madeleine Martin, the younger of the 2 sisters, called Odödliga.
English title Eternal Summer.
This should also be available somehow more or less worldwide. So that's another film with Madeleine, and this is one of the films where I saw Madeleine before we cast her, and it was sort of one of the reasons why we offered the part to her.
Oh, very interesting.
So, Odödliga, I will recommend this also.
Perfect, thank you. Coming from drama filmmaking, basically, what were advantages or difficulties in making a film like Breaking Surface?
Well, the physical challenges were quite big on this this film.
Imagine.
So obviously there were a lot of physical and technical challenges doing this film compared to the previous films I've made, which were straight sort of dramas or comedies, people basically just talking to each other. Mm-hmm. This had a lot more challenges on the technical and sort of production side of it all. But I think the key to getting through it was preparation. It sounds very obvious, but it's not entirely obvious, because time, when you're preparing a movie, it seems like you're always short on time in prep, and there's always a fight between time and budget, because preparation costs money and takes time. But in this case, we got a little lucky, if I'm going to be completely honest. We were about to start shooting the movie 1 year prior to when we actually shot it. And at that point, we had been prepping for maybe 6 months. And we felt that we were ready to shoot, but then for a number of different reasons, we had to push the start of the film for 1 year. And in retrospect, looking back now, I'm very, very, very happy that we got that delay, because we really needed that extra year of preparation. Okay. And so during this time, and obviously it was the underwater sequences that required most of the preparation. So for almost a year and a half, almost every day, I would speak to Eric, the underwater DP, who was also sort of our underwater guru or consultant, whatever you want to call him, because he has so much experience shooting underwater. And he was really a critical asset for us in the preparation of the movie. But to have that extra 1 year of preparation really made a difference. So once we got to the underwater filming, of course it was a little difficult and it was challenging and all of this, but it went 99%, it went according to plan. There were no big surprises, no big problems that we hadn't foreseen and already sort of had a solution for. So that long prep time really made a huge difference. So the difficult part of the shoot was actually when we got to Norway for all of the exteriors, all the winter exteriors.
We thought so, yeah.
Yes. So this was really the hard part. And we started by shooting the underwater sequences in Belgium in a big water studio. And then when we got to Norway, we felt that we had done the difficult part of the shoot, and we were perhaps a little bit, relaxed and thinking, okay, now we just go to Norway and shoot some nice-looking mountains, and we're done. But this was not the case. This was really the hard part. We had to fight the weather, the snow, the cold. The actresses had to get into the cold water because all of the scenes that take place on the surface, that's obviously not in a warm, nice underwater studio in Brussels, but this is actually hardcore in the open water in February, and the water temperature is hovering around 0. So this was really the hard challenging part.
So we've already quickly mentioned the two main actresses. They did a brilliant job, by the way, in portraying both the emotional and the physical duress that they were under. was it an easy casting choice?
Yes, I had seen Moa. She's quite well known in Sweden, and I had seen her in a number of films and TV series. So I already had her in my mind when I was writing the screenplay.
Okay.
So she was always sort of, somebody I thought would be very good for this.
Okay.
So we did meet with a number of other actresses also for the lead part, because I liked Moa as an actress, it wasn't from the beginning clear that she would, take the part, but also that she would be up for the physical challenges, because for these two parts, not only do you have to be a good actress, but you also have to become a good diver. So one part of the casting process was to actually have the actors that we were really interested in do test dives and be evaluated and go to medical examinations and really sort of like a little bit of a NASA astronaut casting, just as in addition to the usual actor part of the casting. So Moa was always there at the top of my mind as I was writing, and then Madeleine I had seen, like we talked about before, I had seen her in the film Odödliga, and then I had actually also seen her in another film called Snabba Cash. I think it's called The Easy Money in English. And she plays very, very different characters in those two movies. And I remember, and they were a few years apart also, and I remember seeing both movies and thinking to myself, like, that's a really good actress. We should do something with her at some point. But, and I'm embarrassed to say, I didn't connect the dots. I didn't realize at first that this was the same person, because such so different characters, and we weren't actively casting for Breaking Surface at this point. So when we started casting Breaking Surface, I went back to my notes and I found these notes saying, we should look at this girl playing in Easy Money. And then I had another note sort of years later. It's like, we should look at this girl in Odödliga. And then I realized, hang on, this is the same person. So immediately sort of she rose to the top, and when we met, she had read the script and she was very, very, very determined that she would get the part.
Nice.
So it was that's the story of how we found Madeleine.
Nice. We felt that your movie was extremely suspenseful. So we were wondering, what do you think makes for a suspenseful movie in general?
I guess it is, and this was one of the challenges writing the script, once you start turning the suspense up, you have to keep going, and I think that's the main challenge, because once you start turning the suspense dial, you can't turn it back. So and I think we managed quite well, both in the script stage and shooting and editing. But in editing, it was a constant sort of a constant debate, like how do we keep the tension rising and don't let up. So I think to make a suspenseful film, the trick is really to not let go, and then probably it's good if you make a fairly short movie. Breaking Surface is only, an hour and 20 minutes. I think if it would have been a 2-hour movie, we would have had some problems in keeping the suspense going. And then the other thing is, you have to be invested in the characters. It has to mean something. You have to, or at least you have to latch on to the characters and feel something for them. This all has to sort of be established quite early on in the film.
In terms of your filmography, we noticed a rather significant interval. We were wondering why this absence from filmmaking or from directing specifically.
Yeah, I think if you look on IMDb or something, it's 6 years since my last movie was out. To be honest, I think since I've written the movies myself, I've directed them, I think some people are very productive. Take Woody Allen, for instance. He punches out one film every year. But for me, I think if I were to keep sort of writing and directing and sort of a little bit have a hand in, I don't want to say the producing, but because other people do produce, but I've always been very involved in the development and sort of everything that goes on around it. If working in this way, if you turn out a movie let's say every 3 years, this is, I think, the maximum speed that you can possibly have. Because it takes 3 years at least to go from idea to write a script, to develop it, put together the production, shoot the movie, edit, and then launch the film. On minimum, that's a 3-year process. So working this way, I think I would say around 3 years is the minimum a film will take. So I think before this one, I had been putting out a film every 4 years, so I wasn't quite at top speed, but reasonable. And then the reason why Breaking Surface took a little longer, it's simply because this was a more complex production.
Can imagine, yeah.
More difficult to put together. It was a much more expensive movie. There were so many co-producers on this movie, so I think we were actively developing this film since 2016, I would say. Since the autumn of 2016, I was more or less working on this every day. Wow. So it was quite a journey to get this one finished. So that's the reason why it took was 6 years since the last one.
Okay, something completely different. In our podcast, we always provide a drink recommendation, preferably with alcohol, to pair with the films that we discuss. It's like food drink pairing we do with films. And we would like to ask you what you would recommend to enjoy watching Breaking Surface. I think that would be interesting.
Okay. You have to go one of two different ways. Either something that is really cold, like with lots of crushed ice. Let's say like a mojito. I think a mojito would be good with extra ice. Or you go the different route and actually have a warm drink, so maybe an Irish coffee. So it'll be either a mojito with extra ice or an extra warm Irish coffee to compensate.
Very nice, that's perfect. Great, I think that's it already.
Super, thank you so much.
No, thank you for your time, it's been great. Very insightful.
Great. All right. Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day. Take care. And we're looking forward to see more movies from you in the future.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.